I've been outside working and listening to a video from Short Fat Otaku. He's basically critiquing this talk between Shoe on Head and Carlin. And they're talking kind of about the different points where they disagree. Shoe on Head's big thing is Carlin's tweets are, she doesn't like them. And so they're sitting there talking about their differences of opinion. So, what's interesting is a subject that comes up is basically like hard work and luck. And so, he mentions that yes, in many ways, luck is involved in, moving forward. And that is to a point, especially on something like YouTube, where you have to hope that someone sees what you do, but you've still got all these things that you can do, work that you can put in to compensate for the luck that you may be relying on. I don't know if it may be a point of division or not, but when I look at luck, we can decrease that amount of luck by a lot. And it's knowledge, that Ty Lopez meme where he shows off his whole books, his Lambo and everything, and it's like knowledge. Yeah, it's just that. But the point is, if you've got the knowledge to know what you need to do in order to move forward, then you're going to rely less and less on luck, because you can rely on work and knowing what to do in order to move ahead, so that you decrease that. In essence, if we want to use a speed run analogy, what this knowledge is it's the correct knowledge that'll help you manipulate the RNG in order to get where you want to faster and get what you want. So for example, in a Pokemon Red speedrun, you'll take advantage of the D-sum mechanics in order to get the specific Nidoran that you want for an any percent run, because that Nidoran will have the stats that you need, it'll be the level that you need, and everything will be just right. And if you execute it perfectly, then you'll get exactly what you want. You eliminate most of the RNG in the game that way too. And so by applying the proper knowledge, then you eliminate more of that luck that you rely on. But another thing that I've heard when it comes to luck is luck can also be an acronym for, laboring under correct knowledge. So you learn the hard truths. You go to the school of hard knocks, and you learn from experience or through the experience of others, through mentors and so on, about how you can labor hard, apply your labor to move you ahead much quicker, rather than having to figure it all out on your own. And there are plenty of people out there that are willing to dispense of that knowledge and help other people to do it. Some of them put it out there for free or for ad revenue. But the concept is the same. You have to go look for that knowledge rather than expect it to fall in your lap. And one thing that comes up is the minimum wage. People are expecting a minimum wage bill or whatever in order to compensate for the money that they're not making, when you've got all these people that have applied a good attitude and everything, and are working hard, and so they're going to screw those people over because they feel like they've been victimized by them. So yes, luck may be involved in finding good money, but you can decrease that amount of luck that you rely on. And luck is more heavily correlated with having the right knowledge, the knowledge that the elite class has in order to move ahead. So how do you get that knowledge? You have to look for it. You have to learn it. And university and school isn't going to teach you that. Another thing, if moving, kind of going into minimum wage, that is brought up is, and moving up in your job, is it's brought up that it's like, well, some of these people just don't have the resources or anything, or they work really hard and they push forward. It's like, okay, they may work really hard, but have they really applied themselves to gain the knowledge and figure out how to move ahead? Do they know that they can do that? That could be a deficiency in the system that has taught them, you go to college, you get good grades, you get a degree, and then you find a good job. And then that system has failed them, and so now they push for systems where they expect it given to them. And so, in the case of like minimum wage or free college, it's brought up on the appreciation factor. It's like, how do you show appreciation for that? Shoe on Head's like, you're not writing a letter to your local government saying how grateful you are for the roads. You're not doing this, that, or the other. The appreciation is more in the attitude and how you apply what you take. Like, if you really appreciate that someone saved your life, what are you doing differently in your life that you wouldn't have done before? Someone that is grateful for still living, I guess you could say, would live their life much differently and in a much better state than they would have than if they had never experienced, I guess, something like that, or had someone intervene that close when they saw that they could get that way. Or if you've been struggling to figure out how you're going to pay for college because you don't know, and then someone comes in, it's like, and says that they'll help you with it, then what are you going to do to show them that you truly appreciate it? One good example, if you get counsel from someone, and I've had this before, where it's like, well, don't fret or this, that, or the other. It's like the appreciation of it, the person doesn't always see. But when you receive that counsel and later on down the road, you see where it is applied and what they told you, then if you take advantage of it and you apply that attitude that maybe they counseled you to take through that experience that you didn't quite think you would go through later on down the road, and you just remember, hey, he warned me about this, I should have expected it, and then you just make the best of the situation that you're in. Is that not appreciating what they've done for you? If you are able to get around much easier because the roads are in better condition and your car isn't going through all the wear and tear that maybe potholes and stuff would give it, is that not a reason to be grateful for it? I mean, you don't always show it to the person involved, but the attitude of gratitude kind of shows in the way you act and compose yourself. So, I'm still in the middle of the video, but I just kind of wanted to take a detour and kind of go through that. And that attitude of gratitude kind of flows into, the hardworking people. Because they bring up, it's like, well, if you've got someone that works real hard, and Short Fat Otaku brings it up, it's like you can have someone that works really hard and they just don't care. They don't want to move forward, and that's okay. But if you've got someone that isn't doing their best at a menial job, then how can you expect them to want to work harder at a harder job that'll pay them more? And that's kind of a big problem too, is like, it's like you expect to get minimum wage, but yet you're not adding more productivity or more value to where you're working. And people could argue, it's like, well, why does everything have to be associated to value like that and blah, blah, blah? But it's like, well, it's true. By increasing your value, you give them a reason to want to give you a raise or to want to promote you. If you have a good attitude or a better attitude and you do what you need to, then it's more likely that they'll want to give you a raise, or it'll be a lot easier for you to negotiate that raise later on down the road, because it's like, well, here's what I do. I go above and beyond and do this, that, and the other, whereas these other people are just doing the bare minimum that they need to get by and get paid. And yes, that takes work. That takes individual work. And if you feel that you're being slighted, then because of your attitude and work ethic that you've developed, it's much easier for you to get the next job that you can go and look for. Because it's like, well, I mean, I know I can do really well. Let's go find a better position maybe elsewhere, and then I can tell these guys to go below. So if you take pride in what you do, then that'll change the next job interview that you go to looking for a better position. Like, take for example, picking tomatoes. That's one of those things for me and where I am that pays based on the amount of work that you output. And so the people that do more work are directly going to get affected, but it's also possible to improve and get better and slowly get to the point to where you're, with your stamina or through various applied methods, that you can improve your output and get paid even better for less work or less time spent. And so I've been giving pointers to other kids on like, hey, if you do this, then this will happen. And I can see how some of them, like, they will apply some of that sometimes. And it kind of actually makes me happy to see that they apply it right away when they do. And other times they just look at me like I'm crazy, because it's like, oh, that's even more work. But it's like, well, I mean, that more work is actually less work, because one, you're not having to carry a tomato box all over the place or carry tomatoes half across 2 rows in order to fill a box. But you can sit there in one spot around the immediate area of the box and fill the box without even moving it. So it's kind of that, again, that idea of when you apply the right knowledge and you are applying the right attitudes and everything, then everything can move forward much better for you. I think that's what some people are forgetting. They're either ignorant of that fact that I can go and get more knowledge and learn from other people's experience and move up in life, or I can just sit here, wallow in the mire, and expect gimmies from everyone else. And so when you pit workers against managers, all you're really doing is you're hurting the middle class. And they're always saying like, well, the poor and middle class, it's like, well, if you thought about what you were doing, who's really getting hurt? Who really got hurt during these lockdowns? It wasn't the middle class, and it wasn't the elites, because the elites had things like their companies and online delivery systems that were still working and could still work during a lockdown. But you had middle-class business owners that lost out. You had some upper middle class people that lost out. But in the end, it was the middle class that ended up going down into the poor class and damaged it, in spite of all the handouts that were given out. People lost their jobs, their businesses. But what did you expect? They were forced to shut down by the states, and sometimes, well, the cities in various states, because they couldn't, because they made them, because they felt they couldn't operate under certain constraints. And it's like, well, there were many businesses willing to adapt and change in order to be able to stay in business, and they just wouldn't listen. It's that thing where you apply certain knowledge or you apply certain ideas, you innovate, and you'll grow and you'll become better, and then you'll make more money because of it. But when you aren't willing to do that, you aren't willing to reach out and find that knowledge, and again, the Tai Lopez meme, in books, which is where it's often found, and that's usually the cheapest way to get it, because you can always refer back to it again and again and again to remind you, then you just end up losing out. And some of the best people have written books in order to teach people this, and you can go and borrow some of these books from the libraries for free, basically, or paid by taxpayer dollars, and get it. So next time someone wants to whine about my free stuff, yeah,